Well, hello there. Welcome to another episode of Raised on the Radio. I am one half of this show. I am Colt Brocato, my good friend Patrick Blair in Skype land. No, not Skype, sorry, Zoom land as usual.
They're the same
What?
thing.
Nothing? That's
So,
it.
I mean, you could make up a new application now, and people would go, "Oh yeah, that one of those things that people use."
Well, yeah, you say they're the same thing, but you highly recommend one over the other.
I
Or you
do.
don't recommend either, one of the
Yeah,
two.
I don't. No, I wouldn't recommend anyone use them, especially now. I'm tired of progressive insurance commercials being via Zoom. I'm tired of all that stuff. I'm over it.
Isn't that kind of
Uh,
crazy?
no, it's not at all. Did I send you the trailer to that movie, the Michael Bay produced movie about COVID? Didn't I send that to you?
I don't think so.
I don't remember what it's called, but I sent you the trailer. I'm pretty sure I did. But there's a movie coming out that is about COVID essentially. It's not called like the disease in the or the virus in the movie is not called COVID-19, but it's all about how the government shuts down the country and you can't go anywhere and you have no rights anymore and this and that. They like arrest you
So
like
it's turning what's going on right now into a legit horror movie, basically.
I don't know if I would call it a horror movie though. I would probably call it like a sci-fi thriller. I don't even know if it's science fiction. I would maybe just call it a thriller. But think of like if Minority Report had a virus. It's kind of what we're dealing with. That's just what I
Uh-huh.
got from the 3 minutes I watched of the trailer, or 2.5 minutes or whatever it was. But I remember whoever posted it on Twitter was like, I can't fucking believe this. How irresponsible. Like, this is bullshit. And I kind of was like, well, I haven't seen it yet, so let me watch it. And then I watched it and I go, what do the makers of this movie know that we, the general public, don't know right now? Because this is a little bit weird. Like, then my wife and I were talking about it. Well, like, obviously, they could have gone into post production and inserted said dialogue and said vernacular and all these things that perhaps they were making a movie, right? Pre COVID. And
Right.
it was pretty much wrapped, but with the use of stupid things like Zoom and Skype, they were able to shoot some new scenes and kind of re-edit the movie to be about what's currently going on with this virus. Um, but and
Yeah, I
that's just the
actually
way that we saw it. But
that should have been the first thing that popped in my head, and it wasn't. I wasn't thinking like if there's a trailer out for this, that means they've been working on this for a while, which means pre-COVID.
well, that's kind of what I said too. But my wife was like, "Well, most of the movie's shot via FaceTime or Zoom or like all the scenes we saw. Now there were other scenes where they're like in an apartment building and the police come to take this fucking old lady away because she's sick, and obviously that's shot normally, but like so she said with the addition of all of those scenes where it's like it's FaceTime or it's shot like it's uh you know a Zoom meeting or something. It probably was pretty easy to do, and maybe perhaps it didn't take that long. Um, I'm looking it up now because I got to know what it's called so I can direct you to it to watch it. Songbird is what it's called. Holy shit. Listen to this. Immune to the COVID-23 virus, a courier races against time to save the woman he loves from a quarantine camp. So they call it COVID-23. Somebody's going to get fired. Somebody's going to get sued.
You think?
I don't know. George Lucas going to sue somebody. That's weird. That's super weird. But look, so the person who posted it was like, this is bullshit. This is irresponsible. Fuck Michael Bay, all this shit. And I watched the trailer and I was like, you know what? I'm a little bit intrigued. I'm a little bit intrigued because all of these conspiracy theorists that you and I know of have been preaching this shit since the beginning. And by the
Right.
beginning of COVID-19, about how the government's trying to take your rights away. And forget about anti-maskers. I'm not talking about anti-maskers. I'm talking about your physical rights to leave your home, your physical rights to go to work and earn a living. Those conspiracy theorists have been, spouting that shit off since the start of this. So when I saw the trailer, I was like, whoa, how happy are these motherfuckers? Like, they got to be seeing this going, I've been saying, they got to be like screaming at their phone screen or computer screen, whatever, however they're watching this. So it's a Paramount Pictures production, produced by Michael Bay and directed by Adam Mason. I don't know who that is. I'm curious to see who that is. Adam
Are you a
Mason.
Michael Bay guy?
No. He's
I
had,
didn't
and
assume
I'm glad
though.
you asked that, because I'm going to go to his IMDb next, because there are movies that I have liked, but I'm going to say vast majority no. Adam Mason. He did Blood River, The Devil's Chair. He did an MMA movie called Blood, Sweat, and Terrors. Not sure I want to know what that is. So it looks like he's done a lot of B horror related stuff.
That sounds like that. What'd you say the name of that was? Blood, Sweat, and Terrors?
Yeah. So I think it's an MMA horror movie, which makes me blood red angry.
But are you intrigued?
Not at
Because
all.
now,
Not one
until you,
smidget of intrigue.
I wasn't at
No.
first, but then you said horror, and I was like, wait a second. It could be. I just want to know what direction they went with it. Like, where's the horror?
Yeah. You want me to look up a synopsis of this movie? Blood,
Kinda.
Sweat, and Terrors. 9 blood-soaked, ass-kicking tales of action and horror. That's all it says. I'm sure it's great. So one of these movies looks familiar to me. It's called Luster. I remember reading about this, but I obviously didn't see it. But a troubled businessman trying to make sense of a life out of control discovers that the man working against him is another side of his own personality as he fights back against his manipulative alter ego. Murder, madness, and mayhem ensue. I remember reading about that somewhere. I mean, that movie came out in 2010, so so he's done a lot of B horror stuff. So, but I'll be honest, the production value of this movie, aside from the FaceTime stuff I'm talking about or whatever, it looked really good. It looked like a Michael Bay film. We'll just say that.
Right.
Let me go back. Let me find Michael Bay's IMDb now, because I'm gonna name. So you ask because I would imagine. Can I guess your favorite Michael Bay movie?
I know what you're gonna say, but
No, you don't. No, you don't. Just let me
Yes, I
say
do.
it. Don't ruin my
Say
joke,
it.
man. You did it.
Say it.
I'm gonna guess
Say
your
it.
favorite Michael Bay movie is Pain and Gain. Oh,
I don't know.
it was a good guess.
It was a good guess, but I don't know, to be honest. I don't know if I could pick a favorite.
Okay.
And that doesn't, and I'm not saying that because I love all of them. I'm just saying that I don't know that I could pick
How
like
many
one.
do you think you can name?
I don't know.
Well, let me ask this. So his most recent one, Six Underground,
I
Netflix
could at
film.
least name 17. I could at least name 17 of them because that's all Transformers movies, right?
Oh, okay. Well, um, did you see Six Underground? It was a Netflix movie with Ryan Reynolds.
I know. I did not see it.
That movie was fantastic. So when you
Was it
said,
really?
yes, it was great. Um, so I've seen that and I liked it. 13 Hours was a great movie. So I like that one. I've seen the first Transformers. I haven't seen any of them since. And,
Okay.
that movie, it was what it was. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. It was whatever. I've seen Pain and Gain. Unfortunately, no, I did not like it. Trying to see. Oh, that's right. He did Bad Boys.
All of them?
Yeah, well, how many are there? I thought there was just 2.
Didn't they just make one that just came out too?
Oh, well, I don't know. It's not on his
I
IMDb,
think.
so maybe he was just a producer. Bad Boys 2 was a steaming pile of shit. Bad Boys 1 was awesome. I love that movie. Pearl Harbor was terrible. Armageddon, I mean, need I say more? So I did like The Rock. Do you like the movie The Rock? Have you seen
It's
it?
been a very long time since I've seen it. Yeah.
I love that movie. That's like nostalgic for me. He did all of the Meatloaf movies and videos. Had no idea. Who would have known? I guess he was a music video director. I did not know that.
Hey, while we're talking about movies, were you a fan of Sean Connery?
I'm not wearing any panties. Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like all of the Bond movies he did because he, like Transformers, did like 17 of them, but there were a couple that I really liked. Um, and then like from there, like, I mean, I'm trying to think of like, I mean, I like The Rock, obviously. I loved,
Right.
I loved him in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That's actually one of my favorite movies ever. I love that movie. Um, so I would say yes, but he took like a long break after like doing James Bond, and then like after he did like The Rock and movies like that, took another break and then did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is not a good movie. I don't even know if you've seen that, but so Michael Bay, I don't know what this is. Do you know what The Island is? 2005?
Is it? I don't know off the top of my head what it is. I know I've heard of it.
A man living in a futuristic sterile colony begins to question his circumscribed existence when his friend is chosen to go to the island, the last uncontaminated place on Earth. Starring Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Joe. I have no idea what that is.
Hmm. Wait,
Uh,
what was the other one? Was there a movie called Shutter Island?
Shutter Island. That's DiCaprio and
Who? That's what I thought. Okay, okay. I don't know if I'm getting
Scorsese.
those two confused in my head or not,
Yeah. Two completely different
just
things.
by the name itself.
So I guess Bad Boys was like his first big feature film. Huh.
And it seems like recently I heard who was supposed to play the parts of that besides Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, but I can't remember who it was. Pretty sure it was two white guys.
Well, that's fucking rude. Who thought that was a good idea?
I don't know. But
Hold
if
on,
you
I'm
have
gonna
your Google
Google
machine,
bad. I'm gonna Google Bad Boys 3 white guys. Do you think I'll get
well, I
anything?
don't know about the third one. The
What?
third one would be just the one that just came out, right?
Okay, I'm gonna Google Bad Boys movie white guys. Is it Ben Affleck and Matt Damon?
It wouldn't surprise me. I don't think so. I think it's more like like off the wall, more I want to say more comedian like, but I can't remember who it was.
I'm not seeing anything here.
Anything? Okay. Well, maybe I'm crazy.
No,
Maybe it was a different movie I'm thinking of.
I think so. I think so. So Michael
Either way,
Bay as a
either way, I'm
yeah.
glad they did.
So Michael Bay as a producer, beyond what he directed, he produced A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2, The Purge election year. He did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Dude, Michael Bay's
He
got
only
some
wait,
money,
hang on.
huh?
He only did one of the Purge movies.
No, he did The Purge Anarchy, The Purge. How many are there? I've never even seen them. I've not seen any of
I
those
know
movies.
there. I think I've only seen the first one, but I knew there was more than one. I'd say it's kind of weird to me if he only did like one of them and not the first one.
Yeah, he's produced a lot of shit too. He did the Amityville horror movie in 2005. Actually, really like that movie. Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 2003. The Hitcher, Friday the 13th in 2009, and Nightmare on Elm Street 2010. I have not seen any of those movies, but anyway, how the hell did we start talking about this?
That was a heck of a rabbit hole we just went down.
Oh, the COVID movie. So I'm sure all of his haters are going to come out of the woodwork on this one to voice their opinion on how this was in poor taste to make a movie like this. I mean, didn't the 9/11 movie come out like 6 months after it happened?
I don't know. Did it?
I don't know. Nicolas Cage is in it, and he plays a fireman, and I swear it came out like
The world, it's called World Trade Center, but I don't know when it came out.
yeah. Maybe it came out. I'm exaggerating, but let's look.
But see
We
that
got we
I
got to be
think
like
that's a
Joe Rogan and fact check everything now, so we don't get censored by our company. Okay, we'll get into that in a
right.
minute.
I think
Um,
that World Trade Center movie though is a little different because it's like it's not a documentary, but it's like a story, like a real life story that happened told from one person's perspective, which would be that firefighter, of course.
yeah. Okay, I was really wrong. It came out in 2006.
I
Whatever.
mean, that was close.
Nah. I mean, I remember something
Too
coming
soon.
out like right after, but
Too soon, bro. Too soon.
what do I know? So yeah, I. Why did we bring that up? Why did I bring up that movie? It doesn't matter. The important thing is you, because you didn't watch that trailer that I sent you because you were out voting. Yes, yesterday.
No, sir. I was not. And I don't think you were either because I didn't see your sticker on Instagram.
Saved it for
Did
the
you
best
post it on
part.
Instagram?
Boom, bitch.
Right on your forehead. That's
How do
perfect.
you like me now?
I like it.
Saved it for the podcast. All right.
I appreciate that.
Who
That
needs
means a lot.
Instagram? Um. So do you have a some sort of wise ass explanation as to why you didn't vote, or were you just too busy to be a patriot and a model citizen?
In all honesty, and this is probably going to sound shitty on my part, but
I'm sure it is.
politics are not my thing.
Go
And I know I
ahead.
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, no,
Let's
no,
hear. I
no.
really don't have much farther to go than that. Politics are not my thing. And when it comes to the research and all that good stuff that for me to feel comfortable to go and vote for people,
Yeah.
I have not taken the time to do that.
Okay.
So to me, it would be a disservice to go and vote for someone just based off of what I get from the media and no research. Now, is that on me for not doing the research to do that? Probably. However, that's where I stand.
What stand-up comedian or podcaster told you that was a good thing to say or a good idea?
Do what now?
Never mind.
What are you
So
talking
let me say
about?
this.
No,
Um,
no, explain that joke. What are you talking about?
while I find it admirable that you had such a lengthy answer to the question, I don't think you have to be into politics to vote. Let me ask you this: do you go to work every day?
Yes, sir.
Do you own your house?
I do.
Do you own a car?
I do.
So you probably pay taxes.
Correct.
So then you're into politics. Because if you weren't, you would say fuck you and you wouldn't pay your taxes. Right?
I mean, I don't want to go to jail.
There you go. So you're into politics. So you should vote. I hate to put it like that, but for real, if you want to break it down to, I get what you're saying. You're not the first person who has said that to me. And believe me, I'm not going to tell you that you're an asshole because you didn't vote. And I'm not going to tell you that you should get into politics because believe me, it's gross. Right versus left, red versus blue, Republican versus Democrat. The way that things are right now, it's gross. But you don't need to be a part of either of those things to feel like you are you are exploring the idea that you have rights. I guess is the easiest way to put that. So like I said, you're not the first person, you're not going to be the last person, but believe me, you are, and everyone is into politics in some way, shape, or form. They may just not know it. Everyone thinks they have to be a political science major and have to follow this shit every day to
Well,
talk about the
so I
issues or go. But I get it. I get it. It's
But I
that
think
it's
I
that
think what you're
anxiety
saying,
you have.
you're saying you're saying that you're into politics, but what you're really saying is you're tied to politics. Whether you want to be or not, you're tied to it, not you're involved in it. Does that make sense? Because I pay taxes, because I own a house, because I go to work every day, I'm tied to politics, whether I want to be or not.
Sure. You just switched up the words, but yeah, you basically said the same thing I
Yeah.
just said with a different
Yeah.
word. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But to
Absolutely.
me, it makes more sense. To me, it makes more
Okay.
sense.
As long as you're on board. Um, ha- and you don't have to answer this. Have you ever voted?
Yes, I have.
You have. Which election? The last one?
No, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yes.
Okay.
It was uh Bush Obama.
Bush Obama. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So well, that was a captivating time to vote for sure. It was a historic time. So I get it. Um,
So as far as voting goes, have you seen a lot of the controversy going on today? Like, if you, I'm
yeah, man.
assuming you're a major Twitter guy. I'm sure Twitter is blowing up with controversy all day long.
Yeah. I've been kind of busy today, so I haven't been on Twitter as much. When I woke up at like 4:30 this morning, and I'll be honest, I didn't sleep last night. Aside from a crying baby, most of the night I had the television on, uh, essentially a loop, a political loop, trying to keep up with the numbers. And I was curious about stuff in my own state outside of just the presidential race. So I honestly was up probably twice an hour, and I would just, if I wasn't tending to a crying baby, I was, you know, watching the TV. So I was like up at like, I don't know, 4:45. And then for, a solid hour and a half, 2 hours, I watched all of the hoopla and the predictions and the science behind it. Um,
So
and then
have you heard the whole Wisconsin situation?
I have, I have.
That's
Um,
kind of incredible, right? They have I think they were saying 101%
yeah, but
turnout as far as votes go, because they have more votes by like 30 something thousand votes.
yeah,
They have
well,
more votes than they have registered voters. So that means that everyone that is registered to vote in Wisconsin voted plus more.
correct. It is incredible, but however, we shouldn't be that surprised because these flubs happen every election. You know,
Yeah.
um, I think last year it took 3 weeks to get Michigan's numbers, if I remember. Last year, I mean last election, I believe it took 3 weeks to get Michigan's total numbers in, which is
I think there's
absurd.
something going on with Michigan too, right?
There
Isn't
is, there always
some
is. Well, I mean, Michigan's like going to Beirut. It's terrible. I'm
something
surprised.
like 138,000 uh, ballots or something came in overnight for Michigan, and somehow they were all for Biden? Something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, the story about Michigan has changed quite a bit. Um, and I apologize to Michigan residents. Many cities in Michigan are like Beirut, so getting votes to come out of those cities and getting those tallied up correctly, I'm sure, is a challenge. I pity the poor people that have to do that. Um, I've so yeah, it's changed. Well, the okay. So here's the odd thing, and this is where I get confused every time. And this is why I understand why people don't get into this, because it is confusing. And if you try to pay attention, and once you finally feel like you have a firm grasp, something happens or something is said and it's contradicted, and you go, well, what? And then you're playing catch up the entire. So last night, I heard multiple people, and not just on conservative stations, multiple people across the board say that if Trump won Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Texas, landslide victory. Now, he's done those things, and it is nowhere close to being a landslide victory. So
Right.
now I'm waiting for the contradiction to happen and those people to correct it. No, they never mention it again. I'm like, well, how do you get away with saying that and making that prediction if it's not even close to being true? And maybe I missed something, but let me just go ahead and pull it up because I got it right here. I've been, watching this, as like I said, since I voted yesterday, essentially. Well, since like 6 p.m. our time. So Trump, Florida, Texas. So Pennsylvania is one of the swing states. There are 20 electoral votes and only 86% is reported, but he's up roughly 5%. So he's got Texas, got Florida. Right now has Pennsylvania and is on the cusp of winning Pennsylvania, and he won Ohio. So again, they said with all of those states together, he should have just run away with a victory.
Right.
And again, so this is saying Joe Biden's up to 248, Trump's 214. Well, either way. So yeah, I back to the original. I understand why you say you're not into it, and you have good reason, believe me. I am fascinated by it all. Well, I think it's gross to be left versus right, and most of the people that get involved in it because of that are gross. I'm still come election time, and how this whole process is just, even though it seems crooked, it's still fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Especially with a guy like Donald Trump, who is not a politician. He's going up against a career politician, who's a populist, going up against a career politician now for the second time in a row, and he thinks he's got it all figured out. Like he's being criticized for saying early on that he won, and kind of blew up Twitter there for a minute, and he thinks he's got it all figured out. So it's fascinating to me that a guy like that thinks he can step in and sort of reinvent the wheel, if you will.
I can't imagine how his ego is taking a hit right now, like seeing that he's down in the polls.
Yeah, he certainly has been quiet on Twitter, but that's
Because
the thing.
he's got such an ego. Like I really feel like he's probably got the biggest ego out of any president that we've had. And
yeah, for sure.
I don't know. It's crazy to me to think about like the things that he says, the things that he does, and it like even that kind of stuff feels like it's ego driven. Even if the stuff he posts on Twitter, and stuff like that, it's all about like boosting his ego. And I'm like, what is going on right now? That's so crazy.
I would say you're right.
Do you think the president should be able to use Twitter or any social media?
Well, I don't think there's any way around it. We're going down a conspiracy rabbit hole here, but I would say they have to, because most of these larger companies own the government anyway.
Okay.
Apple has more money than the government.
Correct.
You know what I mean? I don't know what the numbers are as far as Google as a company goes, but I'm pretty sure Google has more money than the government. Pretty sure Facebook has more money than the government as it stands now. Just liquid assets, right? So yeah,
okay.
I don't know if there's a way around it. Now, could someone say no more? Could there be a bill passed, no more social media? Sure, but that's I don't think it'll happen. But to kind of answer what you said, I would say, yeah, on the surface, he's probably the most egotistical in my lifetime. But imagine if social media were as big for the first part of, George W. Bush's terms, for his dad's, for Clinton's. Holy shit. Could you imagine young?
Now, Clinton's would be crazy.
Yeah. Could you imagine young ass chasing Bill Clinton on social media? Dude, shutting it down. And then I'm even thinking like Ronald Reagan that guy was an actor. You mean to tell me he wouldn't have taken advantage of, social media like that? So,
True.
I don't know, man. Here we are. So apparently Biden's winning the popular vote right now to basically 50% to 48%. 70, nearly 71 million votes in for Biden, nearly 68 million in for Trump. I'm not gonna lie, I'm surprised by a lot of it. But so Nevada's still not in, but Biden's leading that. Biden's leading Michigan, and they are the last two uh, that Biden is potentially or has the potential to win. They're the last two states to come in. And then as far as the ones that Trump's leading in, we have Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. All relatively important, well, they are important swing states. So a lot could change still. We'll see.
Gonna need a big change though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But,
We'll see.
but everything I just said could have been contradicted in the last 10 seconds after since I said it. So who knows?
That's very true.
But well, I'm sad you didn't vote. Maybe next time.
I got 4 years to think about it, right?
You do. 4
Isn't
years
it
of
okay? That's something that's blowing my mind too. Isn't it weird that Trump's already been in office for 4 years?
it feels bizarre. Yes.
It feels like it was last year.
It definitely does. It feels weird.
That is so crazy.
But I think that's a testament to his interaction with the public via social media. I think he has made the time fly by because of that. That is just
Okay.
an educated, that's me reacting to how I feel like it just happened yesterday. All of that time went by because, to be honest with you, people would say what they want about him and what his decisions he's made. I'm not going to get into that because I'm sure there are strangers that do listen to this podcast. So I certainly don't want to give my political beliefs on this podcast. But the one thing I do know is he has made some of it entertaining. You cannot take that away from him. Whether you like him or not, he has kept you engaged somehow, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
good or bad. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but he has. And perhaps that's why the time has just flown by and we didn't notice, you know?
Yeah.
But that's a lot of the people that voted for him the first time said I did it because he's not a politician, you know? And there you have it.
Right.
He certainly at times doesn't act like one. So
Yeah. I just don't know if that's the best
careful now.
reasoning.
Careful
To
now.
some people, maybe it is. I feel like it's not.
I hear you. I get it.
However, I did not vote, and yeah, I don't necessarily have a reasoning why I did not. But yeah,
Okay. We'll move on from that. Shame on you, but it's fine. I won't hold it
but
against you.
I do have one last question though that's very important.
Uh-oh.
How long did you stand in line, or did you vote early and did you get in and get out?
I was there at 6 a.m. when the polls opened, and I waited in line for 2 hours and 18 minutes, I think is what I counted. And I
Jeez,
got there at 10 till 6, and the line was already down the street.
wow.
Yeah. So I knew I was going to stand in line. The good news is I walked because it was right by my house at this school.
Okay,
And because I knew I was going to stand in line, I did dress warm because it was cold. Like shockingly cold because we haven't had that type of cold yet. So, your body hasn't adjusted to it yet. So I had on wool socks. I had on boots. I had on,
thermal.
yeah. I was layered up. So yeah, no, it took me like over 2 hours to get in there.
Dang,
And I was actually number 77 to vote at my polls. So to get 76 people in front of me, it took over 2 hours.
that's crazy.
Yeah, and my wife went at lunchtime and she waited 15 minutes. Oh well. It's
Really?
all about
Got in and out that fast.
Yep. It's all about the experience, I guess. What can you do?
the experience from standing in a line.
It was fun. I was being sarcastic, but yeah, sure. I was waiting for the news vans to come and interview me. Like, sir, how long have you been out here? I was going to totally make up a story too. Like, oh, I've been camped out since 2 a.m. and all that. But no one came. No one cared.
I really wish that would have happened because I would have played that clip. Would have found it on the news,
Oh,
and
I'm
then I
sure
would
you
have played
could.
that clip to intro the show.
Yeah. Well, there was funny thing was is I was wearing a Cleveland Indians face mask because I was being COVID responsible, and so was everyone, by the way.
Well,
Um,
that's good.
there was not a single person in line that I saw that did not have a mask on, and we were outside. But so the mask I had on has the Cleveland C, so it's a red C, right? And two people walked by and said, "Go Cards," and I was like, "You fuck." It's just like I was like, I hope someone like I do. I was like, and after that happened, I was like watching people walk by, seeing if they were looking at my mask. I was going to pull out my phone and record it. Like, "Go Cards." I was like, yeah, get away from me, weirdo. I had my my headsets in, so I was like trying to like I all things considered socially awkward. I don't want people talking to me while I'm standing in a line in 30-degree weather. So
Right.
of course people tried
So,
to by the go cards and all that good stuff, but what can you do?
so you had your headphones in. Were you listening to Rogan?
I wasn't, man. It's hard to these days. I don't like how he's censoring every
As far
single
as
guest on his show.
okay, so this is news to me. What do you mean? Like is he doing it or he's doing it because Spotify's making him do it?
I don't know. If I had to
And what
guess,
exactly do you mean by what exactly do you mean by censoring?
okay, well, maybe censoring is a bad word. He's fact checking people that come on his podcast, which he never did before. And I thought it was one of the great things about the show. We're flying off the cuff. We're
Now, how is he
perhaps
doing that?
he's making them stop and he's making Jamie Google everything, every single
Oh
thing
my
they say.
god!
So he had Tim Dillon and Alex Jones on a couple of shows back. He stopped Alex Jones several times to go, "Now, do you know this?" He goes, "Jamie, look that up." And he's like stopping him. And he goes, "No, we can't. We got to be careful. We can't say this if." And Alex Jones is trying to like, "Dude, just let me do what I do." Like he didn't say it in those words, but that was his attitude. Like,
Alex
dude, just
Jones would be like I can't even believe that Rogan would have Alex Jones on. Like that is the guy that you do not have on if fact checking is something you're gonna have to do throughout the entire show.
the amazing thing was this, man. I want to say that the first 3 or 4 times that he did do it, Alex Jones was right. And
Well, that's good.
Not only was Rogan calling him on it, but he was also calling bullshit. And Alex Jones was actually right. And I found that to be not only funny but fascinating because how many times has he been challenged later on for saying something? Now he said some, believe me, he has said some idiotic things. However, how many times has he been challenged later on after he said something? And because he just didn't want to deal with it, he just let it go. He just let it kind of happen. And he was actually right. Like the people that
Right.
said, "No, there's no way," didn't actually do the research. And he was actually right. But because he just was like, "I want to move on from this," he didn't call him on the idea that, well, maybe you should fact check me because I might be right. Because he said too, he's like, "I'm so, you know, what's the word he used? ADD or whatever, that like I say things and I know I'm not necessarily 100% accurate on what I'm saying, but he's like, I know that the information's there. There might be bits and pieces
Right.
that I've messed up." So he's fact checking Alex Jones. And I was just like, oh, every time. Like, and you could tell that even Alex Jones and Tim Dillon are like, all right, man, we get it. Can we just kind of, but that was what I loved about the show before was that he'd have whoever, I don't care who, it doesn't have to be a guy like Alex Jones. It could be anyone. Something would be said. And if they were wrong, they were wrong. No one apologized. They didn't come back and look it up later. They just said it. Because guess what, man? No one's perfect. And you get 5 people in a room together for 3.5 hours and they're talking. Something said is going to be inaccurate. So we're going to
Right.
stop every time now somebody says something that you're not sure is true or not. and fact check them. So when it happened so recently, he had Luke Thomas on one of the MMA shows. And Luke Thomas was talking about fighter pay, and he was talking about some article that this guy put out where they did some research on USADA. And I'm going to fact check myself right now because I don't remember enough of the details of what he was saying. But Joe stopped him and he goes, "Now, are you sure about this?" He's like, "Have you done your research?" And even Luke Thomas was like, "Well, have I done, like, I did my research on the person who released the article, yes. And they seem to be a trustworthy source." And he goes, "Well, what about," and finally Luke Thomas was like, "Well, no, I haven't." And then Joe's like, "Well, we got to be really careful about saying this." And I'm like, "Oh God, this is
Oh, I don't
not,
like that at all.
this is not fun. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, just let him
Yeah.
go. Let him go on his rant. I understand it's irresponsible if they have a show like that and then you or I come on this podcast and re-regurgitate that information and it's wrong. But dude, that's such as life, such as media. You should always be researching where you're getting your information from. When I hear things on
Right.
Joe Rogan's show prior to this move to Spotify, I didn't take them to be a matter of fact. Like, I wouldn't hear things and go get in an argument with someone and say things that were said on Rogan's podcast to them like I believe them to be true. I just found it to be interesting that the people were talking about it. And if I
Right.
was found it to be interesting enough, then I did my research. That's called being media literate, which I think I've talked about on the show before. So, like, why does it have to be done in the moment? Why can't you and Spotify just rely on the people that listen to your show not to be stupid? It's not Joe's job to monitor his how okay, it's not Joe's job to monitor how his audience interprets his show. His show is just his show, you know?
Yeah, but the other thing too is like when I can understand him fact checking himself or maybe towing a line better now since the stuff has gone on in the past where he's gotten ripped a new one for being wrong on stuff. I can see him towing the line a little better as far as, okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm not spewing anything that I don't know is fact, which still does take some of the fun out of the show. And I get that. But I think he should leave it to the guest to be, I mean, if they're wrong on their facts that they're spewing, that's on them. But now it's like Rogan's taking it upon himself that he thinks he's going to get reamed if somebody on his show is spewing information that's not correct.
Yeah. It's not a
And
show
that
anymore. It's
sucks.
Spotify's show now.
That
Yeah, it's terrible. I don't like it. I don't like
I
it
have
at
to
all.
imagine that Rogan. I have to imagine that Rogan doesn't like it either, though.
I mean, you signed the, $100 million deal. So it's just something
Right.
he and we have to deal with now. It's
But
making it
the
hard
thought.
for me to really. I think the MMA related shows I'll still listen to. If he has a fighter on, I'll listen to it. A guy like Luke Thomas, but the political the political banter and the social justice banter and all that stuff, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if I'm interested anymore. I just think that the scope of what the show means when it comes to those things has changed, and it's just might be for some people, but probably not for me. We'll see. I'll keep giving it a few more chances. I mean, I knew with Alex Jones on that there were something. I knew something was going to happen. Um, I don't know. It's a bummer. What's the last episode
Yeah,
you listened to of that show?
God, I couldn't tell you. It's been a long time.
Really?
But I don't really have. I mean, I used to be a consistent listener, and just I don't know. I'm just not in a position. Like, I used to be able to listen to my headphones at work and stuff like that. I'm not really in a position to be able to do that anymore. So that's kind of taken that away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So stuff that if I can listen to, I'm kind of trying to listen to more about maybe not politics, but like news or like current stuff, maybe stuff we can talk about on the show and things like that. That way I can kind of kill two birds with one stone.
Gotcha.
Do a little bit, a little podcast research, and also listening to something I enjoy listening to.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Like I said, I'm still a fan. You know, he still has really good conversations with people. You know, people have called him an interviewer, I guess, but I don't, I don't necessarily see him as that, and that's also a reason why I like the show. Just kind of, but I think this kind of goes back to when I say he kind of lives in a bubble. Like he thinks all media now should be people in a room just having a conversation. Like there can't be scripted things that happen, and there can't be this dialogue that's predetermined. And like I get it. I like podcasts too, Joe, but sometimes that don't work. Sometimes people
Right.
can't get in a room and just have a conversation, you know.
Right.
But he's good at it, and that's why I like him. You know, don't change that about your show. But he expects everything. He expects TV to now be like podcasts. Like we're gonna wing it. It's gonna be off the cuff. He's experiencing now that hey, we can't just wing it anymore because we
Well,
answer to the
there's
corporate
that,
giant.
but also winging it as far as like the having good conversation that people want to listen to. Like I think we talked about it before, like when Nikki Glazer was on his show, she mentioned that like over an hour of that show was cut out. Like them sitting there talking,
Oh yeah,
over an hour was actually cut out of the show because it just wasn't entertaining conversation. And I mean, especially when I have to imagine it's not. I mean, we have an interview show, like the CEP is an interview type show. I've never been an interviewer. I just learn kind of through conversation what questions to ask to keep conversation moving and to try to stay entertaining. So I don't know. It's not easy to pull great conversation out of everyone.
I
Joe
agree.
Rogan is very good at it,
Very good at
but
it.
some people it's just not. It's just not easy to do.
I get it. I'm with him. Like him, I prefer this medium. And I've done both. I've been, once upon a time, I was on a radio show. And when we had guests, that was my least favorite moment of the show. And I really hated that I felt that way because we had some really cool people on. And while I'm not a dummy, like I could come up with questions to ask, it was just, to me, it felt so forced. Now, if you get an entertaining person that can answer your questions with some sort of vigor and charisma, then that's fine. But if they don't know what's coming, you don't know what you're going to get out of a person. So that was
Right.
always my least favorite part of the gig, and it just I didn't like feeling that way, and I felt like the other guys resented me for kind of like tapping out when that moment of a show would happen. And we didn't have guests every show, but when that moment of a show would happen, I would always kind of take a step back and kind of let everyone else kind of do their thing. Um, maybe that's selfish of me, and maybe it was just I was lacking interest in the guests too, which perhaps is selfish as well. But what can you do, man? This is this is easier. This is easy.
How did that work? Did you guys choose who you had on, or was that like the whoever owned the station or the radio show that you had? Did they choose the guests you had?
Oh no, we had to go out and get our own sponsors, our own guests.
Okay, gotcha.
So I mean, which is good. It You learn a lesson in rejection and you know teaches you to be humble because people do not care. They just don't care, you know. But I mean, we had some cool. I think a largely we had some cool people on, and I think people were rather receptive to the idea, but we weren't generally thinking too big either. I think when we did, it became difficult. And then there was this monitoring of, well, what are you going to ask? You can't talk about this. You can't talk about that. Like we had that one time with a girl. She was an Olympic, like skier or something. But again, I'm tapping out. I'm tapping out. I had nothing. But she had like a publicist send an email of all the things we could and could not talk about, and I was like, well, fuck this, man. Like I don't. And then there was the conversation with the guys. It's like, well, do we care to have her on? And well, we've already asked, and they've already said yes upon these conditions, so we might as well. But then we had guys like Mean Gene Okerlund on,
Oh, really?
and that was unbelievable because he was a maniac. He was just a lunatic. So that was fun. And then we had like Brett Okamoto on, MMA guy from ESPN. Like I had no problem asking that guy questions because I would ask MMA related questions that I would typically bring up in conversation with you.
Right.
That was easy. But there were times, man, where I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to ask. Like we had a professional bull rider on once, man. And when I'm telling you,
I can.
I've never wanted a drink so bad. Like genuinely a nice guy, but I was dumbfounded with some of the answers. Like it almost was like we shouldn't have asked about bull riding. We should have just been like, "Hey, what did you eat for dinner?" Like it was bizarre. So anyway, I don't know how we got to that either, but oh yeah, Rogan. So I get back to what I was saying, and I'll finish. I'll probably said it too many times already, but I get what he's trying to do with the whole conversation thing. I'm the same way. I like it. I don't consider myself to be a good interviewer. I probably never will be, maybe if I worked at it. But I also like radio. Like I can listen to a radio show where the content is person being interviewed. Radio host is interviewing said guest. I think Rizzuto from the Rizzuto show is really good at that shit. I think he's a great interviewer. Now I don't listen to that show much. I catch it on YouTube live sometimes. It's typically when I listen.
Well, radio's a lot different because than a podcast in the fact. Let's see how I want to put this. So radio is different than podcast because of the amount of time that it takes. Like you said, Rizzuto is really good at interviewing. He is, but normally it's maybe 10 minutes at the most that he's getting junkets with these people. And if you have a list worth of questions and you are good at interviewing, you can knock it out of the park with most people. But as you said, he's probably getting a list beforehand of can't talk about this, can't talk about this, can't ask questions about this from publicists and stuff also.
Oh, sure.
And I get that from the guest standpoint because it takes it off their shoulders of thinking, okay, well, I might be asked questions that about something I really don't want to talk about or I really don't feel like sharing. So I get it from their point of view, but it's also hard for an interviewer because there's questions that you really want to ask that would make good entertainment, but you just can't. I mean, there's no if you want the guest, you have to abide by the rules that they put in place. So
yeah, no, you're right. It does make it more uniform, which some guys are good at following the format. Actually, they're trained to do it, to be honest. All those old school radio guys. I don't know about anymore. I've been so out of it, but I got on a radio show because I thought it was going to be like a podcast. And at times it was. It's just a conversation. It had to be somewhat monitored and kind of had to keep it to a set amount of minutes and all that work in sponsor, all that good stuff, but like reads and all that jazz. But so yeah. Well, I'll have to see. Like I said, I'll keep giving Joe Rogan a chance, but I'm kind of bummed with the direction that it's heading. The MMA shows will be easy for me to watch because there's just, with the UFC and MMA in general, there's a ton going on. Did you watch Anderson Silva's Swan song?
No, I read up on it, but I did not watch. I didn't get to watch it.
It'll probably bum you out. Don't even watch it.
Yeah. The biggest thing that bummed me out was Dana White's take on it afterwards and saying that he never should have let
God,
Anderson Silva fight.
he doesn't know
And
when to stop with that, huh?
He doesn't care, does he?
That's why he is who he is, and the UFC is doing so well. I'll be honest. He is his own.
But God,
if he were afraid what people thought of him, or if he was afraid to speak his mind, the UFC would be in a completely different state right now. So it's a well-oiled machine, and he has a lot to do with it. And him having a lot to do with it has a lot to do with the fact that he gives zero fucks about what you and I think, about what he doesn't care.
But there should be a line there.
I
understand that.
I
get it 100%, but there should be a line when it comes to the people you employ. Like if the company that you work for, if the CEO was bad-mouthing you and other people that you work with all the time,
which
he would be fired.
Which they do. They just don't do it on national television.
Right. They're not going to go in front of a television and tell millions of people, I never should have let him come into work today. He did a terrible job, or whatever. It's crazy.
You're right, but there's a reason there's a Dana White's Contender Series. Is because if you don't like it, he will replace you. All of these prelim cards are filled with guys he's pulled from, guys and gals from the Contender Series. And guess what? Right. Those fighters are flourishing. Those fighters are doing well. They're getting fights, and they're not saying a fucking word, man. They're keeping their mouth shut, and they're appreciating the opportunity. Now, when they get to a level, as some of these other fighters who have been in the UFC and doing it a long time, perhaps they'll stop, being as carefree about it. But he's proven that if you don't like it, then fine, you won't fight, and I'll just find someone who will. That's why it's a good business model. He's got the next guys lined up, ready to go. If everyone on the Dallas Cowboys goes on strike tomorrow, what does Jerry Jones do? Does he have people lined up to play? Perhaps. I mean, they got a practice squad, but it's going to be a bad situation. So, that's what makes the UFC unique and interesting and just completely different than any other team sport, So,
yeah. Well, there's a card this weekend. Who's our headliners? You said Thiago and Glover?
Thiago Santos and Glover Teixeira. A 36-year-old and a 41-year-old. Number 1 and number 3 in the rankings. The winner could potentially be the next two fight for the title.
How insane is that?
Thiago hasn't fought since he lost to John Jones, so he should be fresh and ready to go. He's 36, but he's looked really good in his last 5 fights. So Glover.
So the news we're hearing is that Izzy is moving up in weight class to fight Jan. So you're saying that the winner of Glover and
Thiago.
Thiago, sorry, lost it. The winner of that fight will face probably the winner of Jan and Izzy.
Ooh, don't expect that. No. If Izzy beats Jan, he is fighting John Jones for the light heavyweight title. I am laying that down now. I will put up hard-earned money against that.
So you think Glover or Thiago would face the winner of that fight?
Maybe.
Jones or Izzy?
Maybe.
You just said it would set. You just said it would set the winner of that fight up for a possible title shot.
I said
so it's got to be one of those two fights.
I said potentially.
Okay.
Make no mistake about it. If Izzy and Jan fight and Izzy wins, John Jones is taking his ass back to light heavyweight to fight Izzy for the title. Trust me. It's all in writing already. Trust me. I guarantee it. There's a contract somewhere. They're ready to sign it as soon as it needs to be signed. Trust me. And to be honest with you,
would that if they stack that card? Let's plan this out. Let's say that Izzy beats Jan. Now we're set up for John Jones and Izzy. and we stack that card, does that break pay-per-view numbers, like records?
Eh,
I think it has I think it has potential to be up there.
it does. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It would be good if there could be fans there. I think that would help the allure. But
That's true.
there's the thing that you could do on that, and I'm glad you said that, is you could, if Jan loses to Izzy, which I don't necessarily think he will. I think that's a fucking tough fight for Izzy or John Jones, to be honest.
Right.
But if he does lose, you could put he and Thiago Santos on that card if Thiago beats Glover, because there's already a built-in storyline there because Thiago KO'd him. There's already a built-in storyline. If Thiago wins on Saturday, okay, there is a built-in storyline there for him to be the next to challenge for the title. But is it sexy enough? Is it sexier than Izzy moving up to challenge for a second belt? The answer is no, unfortunately. I like organic stories like that, but the casuals do not. Izzy has a name. He's probably top 3 most popular fighters in the UFC right now. So yeah, it's a better storyline than Jan Thiago Santos too. Even if they play Thiago KOing him on a loop for 3 months, it's still going to draw more numbers. That's just the nature of the beast. But I'm looking forward to any of that. Any of that, what we just said. I'm looking forward to Izzy Jan. I'm looking forward to the fights this weekend. I'm looking forward to John Jones Izzy, John Jones Jan.
As far as Izzy goes, have you heard, is he trying to play between 2 different weight classes, or is he just strictly moving up? Like,
No,
is he going to end up having to drop that title?
Dana White said he's going to do both. He said there's no reason for him to vacate the middleweight title right now. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could be
he
neat.
said Robert Whittaker would have been next, but he said Robert Whittaker said he didn't want the fight. So.
Oh, really?
That's what he said. And Robert Whittaker didn't necessarily say that, but that's Dana manipulating the situation to the way he wants it.
Right.
So.
He needs the storyline to be a certain way.
he controls the narrative, man, or he does his damnedest to try. I can say that. Yeah. But I'm looking forward. I'm excited to watch Thiago and Glover go at it, man. Glover's the ageless wonder, man. He's unbreakable, man. So we'll see. And think about this too. The last time he challenged for the title, Glover, that is, he fought John Jones at UFC 174. I want to say that was in 2014. So imagine if he fights for a title 6-7 years later at the age of 41, potentially the age of 42, because he just turned 41. But by the time this all unfolds and they say, all right, we're going to give you a shot, he could be 42 years old. If he wins, he's got to win on Saturday. Otherwise, it's, but I don't know, man.
Would he be, wonder what the oldest champion in the UFC has been?
Randy Couture.
And how old was he?
He was, when he won the light heavyweight title, when he fought Chuck Liddell, he was 40 years old. So then he won that heavyweight title when he beat Tim Silva, I believe. Yeah, he was 40. He would have been 42, I want to say. Oldest light heavyweight champion was Randy Couture. If Glover fights, he could be the oldest, potentially. Again, this is all potential, but you never know.
Well, the really important question is, have you fact-checked everything that you've been saying?
Nope, and I'm not going to. And on that, we can close because I got to get out of here anyway. So I've said what I said, and I'm not taking it back. I wanna stray from you.